Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Dev Roulette Live. You can see my two mystery guests for today are no longer a mystery. We have today Amit Sheen and Kevin Powell, and I'm sure both of their names are familiar to the majority of you if you are kind of in the CSS scene. Amit, I certainly, well, you reached out to me first, actually. Had the honor of being on your show that you were doing for a while, CSS Masters, which was fun. But Amit, we'll show your code pen later, is definitely known for some very creative 3D and special effects type of CSS and other things, which I'll let you tag on to. And
Okay.
then, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, but go ahead. Okay.
All right. And then Kevin Powell, you have quite an extensive following. So, but CSS teacher, lots of excellent courses on CSS, and just overall CSS advocate from my perspective. So, anything else you would like to add? And we'll drop links and stuff in the chat as well for both of you.
No, yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Well, for those that haven't joined the show yet, the idea is that we have mystery pairs for each show. And we are going to, in just a moment, I'll change the view and we'll have a wheel of topics. So the topics for everyone in terms of what exactly we're going to talk about are still a mystery. They will, of course, be focused on CSS again today. All right. So up on screen now we have our infamous, I'm just going to call it that. We're not quite there with our viewership yet, but anyway, it's going to be our Dev Roulette wheel for today. And so we have a total of 8
Not
topics that
3D
we,
wheel, by the way.
yeah, a total of 8 topics that we could land on. And the rule we established in episode 1 was that if it lands on the line, we'll pick the topic below the line unless we've already done it. That's the plan. So, Amit, we're going to go ahead and have you do our first spin. So, I'll let you know when I'm got it going and you tell me to stop. So, it's going to start now.
Stop.
All right. Well, we're right out of the gate. We're just by a hair. We're going to start with spinner's choice. So, in other words, a topic of your choosing related to CSS. And you're welcome to
Oof.
choose from the other options on the wheel.
Ah. Voice? Right on, right on,
Yeah.
right on, right on start. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Katie, maybe you have any ideas?
Oh, you can choose respin if you would like that to be your choice.
Let's do a respin. Maybe we'll
Okay.
do a choice later.
Yeah, we'll get a little warmed up. All right, I'm going to start the spin now.
Stop.
All right, well, a good one for you to kick off for us. The topic is CSS Effects. All your special effect work. Anything you'd like to share? And I do have your code pen open, so I can certainly pull up any demos as well.
CSS effects is such a big topic. There's so many types of effects. I mean, do you want to zoom in on specific types of effects?
Yeah, if you want to talk about your, I mean, you're from my perspective, you're definitely known for various 3D types of effects. If you want to hone in on that area.
Well, yeah, I actually started with 3D by accident because I actually started with CSS with animation. My focus is animation because I like to explore CSS by using animations. Let's take an example, like non-3D example. Like one of the last code paints I did was the text morphing.
Okay.
So I wanted to I played around with filters, okay, with the types of CSS effects. So I want to know how a filter looks like a blur filter in 1 pixel, 10 pixel, 100 pixels. But instead of changing it all the time, I'm just doing animation, like animate it from 0 to 200 and back, and let's see what happens. So animation, it's my way of testing, of exploring CSS. And while you're doing animation, putting perspective in it, it's always fun because okay, so I know what a rotate Y does, but let's spin it on rotate Y. Let's not move it in one angle. So that's how I got into 3D CSS. but I really liked it, and I really liked the result, and the audience liked it also. So I kept doing it, and I'm still doing it. Um, and I think I'm not over. I'm not done with it, not by a long shot, because in a way I think I'm actually thinking that in some way 3D designs will become more and more of a thing as VR come more and more to our lives. So more and more 3D design will be coming into the web. So there is a lot of things to explore by now, but most of the things I've done by now, just like Michelle said last episode, it's nothing that you're going to use in production, not by a long shot, of course. But I'm actually now focusing in on things that you would do in uh, like 3D buttons and 3D reveals. And Kevin said something about there's a subject that flex versus grid. He said something about 2D, 1D versus 2D. So I asked him, what about 3D layouts? And I asked that as a joke, but afterwards I actually thought about it. What about 3D layouts? That might be, it actually can be a thing. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going to start to explore. I'm starting to explore right now, so I'm not done with perspective. And but another thing that I thought about it right now, a lot of CSS effects will get a boost as CSS Houdini will come into our life. So we don't know when and how exactly, but I think that once Houdini actually going to be active, the options are endless. Seriously.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I'm excited to see how folks such as yourself really use those newer techniques that are going to be native in the
Yeah,
browser. And I know Brahma's last episode talked about scrolling to animation, all of those kinds of things. So
yeah. This is one thing. I actually done a lecture about CSS Houdini a couple of months ago. So I did a couple of examples, and it was so fun. It was like, oh, I can do anything I want. Like nothing stopping me right now.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually waiting for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, I would be interested in your thoughts as well on this topic. I know you definitely have a different side of the coin of this particular topic, but I'm still definitely as a teacher and in sharing about what CSS can do. I'd love your thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I mean, from my side, everything Emmett's up to is sort of like black magic almost. Every time I look at his code pen, even after we did a collab together, and so it sort of showed that it's not always so complex, but it still amazes me. Just like the thought process and thinking about things, it's so foreign to me for those types of things. I do think that a lot of effects these days are like I like them for teaching just because if you get a little bit of a wow factor going, it can be helpful in getting people interested in things, but obviously from a much simpler perspective. But just the little things that you can do that can sort of bring a little bit of joy or smiles and stuff. And I do think that even going into like production websites, like I'm talking about 3D stuff within like 3D layouts and that idea, I think is a cool idea. And that like when you can bring a little bit of pleasure to the experience of a website, even if it's more of like a micro interactions and those things that it's not necessary that the user's really noticing it's there, but it's these little touches that can just improve the experience a little bit, whether it's informing them of sort of what's happening. But I'm a really big fan of those more subtle effects. Sorry, my kids are in the
You're
background.
all good.
1 second.
Yeah, I'm definitely closer to what Kevin's talking about in my own work than Amit, but I'm very impressed by what Amit you share with us, and I'm grateful for folks that share those skills and give us that kind of spectrum of what CSS can do. It's amazing. So
I should say that one of the reasons that I take CSS to extremes, it's
yeah,
because in my day job, I'm not a CSS developer. I'm almost not doing CSS like in my day job. Like 9% it's JavaScript, it's React. So when I'm not doing things for work, so I can go wild. So it might look like I'm a bit extreme in CSS, but again, because in my day job I'm just a regular regular JavaScript developer.
That's awesome. I appreciate that perspective as well. I am glad you shared that. I'm sure we'll talk about more about kind of why you're into it and some different aspects as we go through our topics. So speaking of, Kevin, it is now your spin if you are ready. All right, I'm going to start the spin now. A motion warning. I forgot to give that last time. This wheel, it will spin, so a motion warning for that. But I'm going to start the spin now.
Stop.
Oh, we landed CSS Effects again. All right, we'll respin.
Oh.
Restarting now.
Stop.
All right, our next topic is custom properties. So whether that's general sentiments on them, how you tend to use them, really whatever angle that topic brings to mind for each of you. So Kevin, you can go for that one.
Yeah. I mean, for me, custom properties were a really big game changer in terms of how we're writing our CSS. I use Sass a lot, and was one of the reasons I started using Sass was because of variables. And then I guess when they first came to the custom properties, I didn't really see, it just seemed like a few more character strokes to do a variable. But then obviously quickly you start realizing that there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more you can do with them. And just the fact that it's innate, the CSS is rendering it, it's not pre-rendered, so you're stuck with a value. And then for me, I think I'm still sort of evolving in how I'm using them. But it's just, I think most people will be doing the global, throw it in the root, get as many custom properties as you need in there, and that's it. Whereas I think having either like some of the more exciting ways for me of using it is when you have a declaration that's calling a custom property, but it's not a declared, like you haven't used that custom property, so you have a backup. So like, I don't know, var spacer, comma, 1em. So you're studying like the default is 1em, but if you want to overwrite that somewhere else, you can within like a more scoped context. I think that is just so amazing and useful. And just like locally scoped custom properties can be you can use them in really creative and fun ways with that type of thing, where you're sort of using them in a certain way, but overwriting them later on. So I'm a big fan of that type of use case of them these days. And I know I'm always amazed seeing people coming up with such creative solutions like the switch solution or hack, I guess, with custom properties now, where you can use it with an empty string and stuff there. So it's just, yeah, I think there's so many possibilities. And now with, talking before about Houdini and all that, we have the app property that's coming as well. And that's just opening up another door of possibilities and stuff with custom properties that I think is really exciting. So
yeah. I just pulled up on screen. I just want, in case folks aren't familiar quite yet with custom properties, I just did the very, very bare bones format that you would do for custom properties. So you're just like variables in other languages, you are choosing what to call it, and then to call the custom property, and then you can call it anywhere within any property in your code, and you can combine them in very interesting ways. And I think that's what makes them super powerful. But anyway, just want to make sure to quick describe what I did here up on screen. Nothing actually useful, but there's the format we're talking about.
Yeah. And I also think like a lot of the future things that seem to be coming to CSS as well, the integrate, like because it's all native CSS, like they're looking at the new color module that has like color mixing and stuff like that, and that you could use custom properties in that, and like some of the other things, like it's just, I think we're just starting to sort of see where it's like it's going to become a bigger and bigger part of everything we're doing, I think. And yeah, I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah. I'm pulling up the Houdini as well, since we've mentioned that a few times. It shows off custom properties, but just a quick explainer, because I think we've mentioned that about 3 or 4 times already, and that's definitely like lesser known to folks, but it essentially lets you augment CSS with your own custom features and layout and paint behaviors. So I'll drop this link in the chat for folks that want to check that out more of what's available in Houdini. So anyway, just trying to supplement some links as you're talking along. But Amit, yeah, any additional thoughts for custom properties? And
yeah, actually, first of all, I'm absolutely agreeing with everything Kevin said. It was a game changer. I worked with SAS for years, and when custom property came along, I started using them immediately. The thing about custom property, some people call them CSS variables, and they're the same thing. Well, no, it's not the same thing. One of the first lectures I ever done is the difference between custom properties and CSS variables, not soft variables, CSS variables. Uh, and again, it's the same thing. It's totally semantic what I'm about to say right now. But when you do something like the one you did when you put a variable in the root and then use it, so it's a simple variable. But sometimes I use custom properties that, like I'm doing a loop. I'm looping through a lot of elements, and I give each one of them, for example, a different value that I later on use this value for animation delay, for example, or for height, or for a position, or for anything else. And then it's not just a variable; it actually is a custom property because it's a different property for each element, even though it's the same variable. So unlike variables in JavaScript, for example, when you change a variable, you change the variable. It changes all the time. But when you change it in custom property in CSS, you only change it to the same element and its siblings, obviously, and its children. So it's again, it's a bit semantic, but I think it's a nice little difference that when you do this little this use this little difference between variables and custom property, I think you can actually use custom properties better.
Yeah, definitely agree. Is there a particular code pen that would illustrate that pretty well? Just curious that you can think of. And we don't have to, but just in case.
Yeah, maybe the one that Kevin showed in his video, the one with the ball that drops down. Yeah, the one bouncing off the walls, the bottom left one. So you can see that I'm the bottom left one. You could see, or maybe or maybe even just the one in the middle, the same thing. So each one of the pedals actually have, I think, actually have a different animation delay. So, and this animation delay is set here. It's set by SAS. Okay, so no, forget about it. But this is the concept. Yeah, this is SAS. But the concept is the same thing. So it is different variable. I can check. I can look for a better example.
That's all right. Yeah.
while we're speaking.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I'm good.
Yeah, custom properties for me, I'll just quick say, is definitely something I've evolved to use a little more, kind of more like Amit you were describing. I'm not going to be able to get to it fast enough. I might pull up one example a little bit later too, but I think what's really awesome is being able to combine partial values. So like if you're doing HSL, you can make a variable for just the hue and saturation and pop that in, which is just incredible. And it's kind of weird that it works that way, but it does. And it just makes your CSS so much more powerful and dynamic, and very, very cool ability that we have now for sure.
And again, if we bring back Houdini, so
yeah,
if you use Houdini, you can actually animate the hue and just animate the hue and not animate the lighting and the situation.
Yeah, very, very fun methods we have. All right, Amit, I believe it is your spin. So again, motion warning, if you've just joined us, this wheel is going to spin. So we're going to start the spin now. Oh, we landed on custom properties again. I'm just going to go the one below, which is grid versus flex. See if we can get a little controversy going. The most mild controversy.
It's not controversy. I mentioned it earlier that Kevin said that the difference is the 1D versus 2D. Some people said, some people don't agree with it. I'm actually one of those kind of guys. I'm using Flex for 1D layouts, and I'm using Grid for bigger layouts, for 2D layouts. And I'm actually a developer. I used to develop websites like with tables back in the old days. So moving to Grid was actually pretty easy for me. Like it's like it was like, oh, this is the way we're supposed to work. It's easier. So the land in was very nice. And actually, I think I got to know Kevin's channel by his video about grid because I wanted to learn grid better. So I looked in YouTube and oh, Kevin. And I believe that this was the first video of Kevin I ever saw, if I'm not mistaken. And one more thing, yeah, no, Kevin, if you have anything.
Yeah, I'm happy we landed on this one just because it's something lately I've been thinking a lot about. Just because, and I mean, I'm glad that you found my videos. I made those. I was really excited when Grid came out too, and I dove into it really early on. So I think it was one of the things that actually helped my channel because I had early content on Grid. But I haven't done much content on it lately, but I've been thinking a lot about it because I did do one video. I was looking at sort of some Flexbox issues that can come up depending on how you're organizing your markup. And I'm sort of falling more now into the camp instead of the 1D versus 2D for layouts. I think for me, I'm falling more into intrinsic versus extrinsic sizing on elements. Just because with Flexbox, it's so, and I'll explain that a bit more for people. Like when you say intrinsic sizing, it's sort of the element sizing itself, you could say, or like how the browser decides to. Whereas implicit or explicit, not intrinsic, right? Sorry. So if it's implicit or explicit, so if it's implicit, it's when it's sort of sizing itself, and if it's explicit, you've declared a size on that. So are you declaring a width or not declaring a width? Is the browser figuring it on its own, or are we saying exactly how big to be? And Flexbox works so well with the implicit sizing. When you do display flex, especially if the items are smaller, they'll just shrink and fit the content. If they're really long, it's going to sort of figure out how big each one should be and then use its flex shrink. But if they're different sizes, because shrink is a ratio, they all end up sort of imbalanced. And then you have to select the children and play with the children to get them to behave the way you want them to. Whereas with grid, you set up your grid on the parent and the items fall into the cells that you've declared. So you're explicitly saying, these are the cells I want. And you can play around, you could set a cell as min content and it's going to sort of follow the sizing of the element. But I find like if you're doing a navigation, I think it makes a lot of sense to use Flexbox because you want it to be based on the link size basically. Or if you have a grouping of buttons or elements that want to go next to each other, they could all be different sizes. Flexbox makes tons of sense. Whereas when you need something a bit more structured, that's where I think grid really shines because you're literally defining the size and the elements have to fit within the grid that's being applied to or that you're giving it. So yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how to describe what I'm saying right now, just because it's something that, as I said, it's been on my mind a lot, but I'm just trying to like really sort of condense my thoughts on it and come up with some good examples, which I don't have too many solid things other than like the navigation one, which I think is a nice example of a perfect use case for Flexbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. I've been wrestling with that as well. I'm doing I'll pop the link in the chat, but I'm doing a workshop in 2 weeks from yesterday. And yeah, I'm with you from the teaching perspective of how to describe like best use cases. And for me, like sometimes it's just discovery as well. When it comes down to it, like you can know, it's good to know generally how they're going to work. And I think you described it well, that it's a lot about how you want things ultimately to size themselves and rearrange themselves. I described it last stream as kind of like, what level of squishiness do you want?
Yeah.
It has kind of helped guide how I tend to do it. I'm going to pop one more link for myself in the stream for my small.
I liked what Alex wrote. That it's like the West Side Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grid versus flex. Yeah. I mean, I think they both have their case. I tend to use grid more often, but again, it's context specific for what I'm typically doing. It's typically it just works better. So anyway, any last thoughts from either of you on grid or flex?
One thing, people should know, grid is fully supported. Even in my company, people say when I use grid, like, "Oh, is it supported?" Yes, it's supported. Use grid. It's okay. Yes. Right?
Yeah. I've been my Twitter and my YouTube. I'm thinking about it a lot. I'm just putting out random thoughts, and every single one I do, people are like, I use grid, but the support, and I'm like, it's been supported for 4 years now. Like, come on, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why people think it's not supported. It's absolutely supported.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
It's the IE11 part of things, but
Mhm.
we have about a month and a half till we have to not worry about that as much anymore. Well, can start to not worry about it as much anymore. So anyway. All right, cool. So I believe Kevin, right? Or
Yes.
okay. All right. All right. I'm going to again motion warning for new folks on the stream. This will spin. So I'm gonna start that now.
Stop.
Ooh, all right. This is my favorite question. I kept it from last stream because it was awesome for this format. Why do you do it? Why are you a CSS, whatever you're doing with CSS, why do you do it?
For me, I sort of fell into it a little bit accidentally, but now that I have sort of, I guess, I fell into it accidentally a little bit just because it was what I was sort of most interested at the time. But now as time has passed, it's because a lot of people get frustrated with CSS, that either they're new to front-end development, so the whole idea of just writing code is foreign to them a little bit, or the same thing for people that are coming from either backend or from JavaScript or from wherever else it is, computer science backgrounds, they get frustrated with CSS as well. And a lot of you always hear that it's unintuitive or it doesn't it doesn't make sense. It's whatever. People get very frustrated with it. It doesn't do what you want it to. And the more I've been doing it, the more I've learned about it myself through teaching it, the more you see that it does make sense. There is a logic behind it, and it can be a lot of fun. So really now my thing is, I sort of started saying at the beginning of my videos now that I'm hoping I can help people fall in love with CSS, but if not fall in love with it, at least be less frustrated by it. Because I do think that I get why people can find it frustrating. You get like collapsing margins, which they can be the biggest. If you don't understand or know why that's happening, 100% it's frustrating. There's a reason that it happens, and I think with modern web development, maybe it sucks that we're stuck with it, but it's one of those things that I think once you understand sort of formatting contexts, stacking contexts, and things like that, if you can get those fundamental base, you start seeing and understanding a little bit more on how it works, and then it can take that frustration away. So I'm just hoping that I can help as many people get past that frustration as possible.
Yeah, love it.
Help me. Help me.
Absolutely. And Kevin, I popped Kevin's direct link to his courses page.
Thank you.
Definitely we added your YouTube a couple times as well. So definitely if you're looking for
Thank you
CSS
so much.
content and you appreciate the video format in particular, for sure check out what Kevin has to offer if you're not already, because you just got 300,000 subs, which congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's exciting. It's
Cool.
Unbelievable still a little bit.
Very awesome. All right, Amit, why do you do it?
Well, I actually, the reason I started, I'm not maybe I'm not the common CSS developer, because a lot of CSS developers came from the design side, and they were a designer or UX designer, and they wanted to learn how to implement their own code, their own designs. I started out as a full stack developer, moved to a front end developer, and which I'm still doing. So I actually just started, like, I opened up a CodePen account years ago just to practice,
Yeah.
and that's the first reason I did. I want to practice. I want to practice new things. I want to learn. I want to try out new things and so on. The second reason is just how do you say it? Work hard, play hard, work hard.
Yeah.
There's a sentence in Hebrew. I don't know how to translate it. But after you're doing weird, uh, out of the box things, when you not even sound like position a div in a very strange way, yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah, go on, come on. So that's the second reason, and the third reason is, of course, it's fun. It's kind of an artistic outlet, because I can't draw and I can't do anything, but I can write code, and I can write a couple of lines of code, and then there's this cool, colorful thing that turns around and it looks cool. So this is the three main reasons. And by the way, I ask that questions a lot. A lot of people ask me, like, why do you do animations, and especially 3D animation with CSS? Because it's not not the right platform, but yes, it is exactly for those reasons. Just to practice, to learn, and fun.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, definitely. I reposted your personal website in the chat and where you're kind of highlighting some of your works. And then because I think we've had more people join, I'll definitely post your code pin another time as well. Definitely backs up what you're saying. The amount of creativity that goes into these. Very cool. And also, maybe I'll find it in a minute. But you two actually did Kevin, you had a minute on your own stream and went over creating a 3D demo as well. So very cool. Folks can look that up on Kevin's channel. So you can watch him explain how he's doing those. So very cool stuff.
That was fun.
Yeah.
By the way, that was fun. I actually like, when I started doing it, I think maybe Kevin will also do it. When you're doing things that you're putting it out there, you want to inspire other people. But I had no idea how fun it is to actually know that you are inspiring people. Like just today, this guy wrote, "I saw this video of you and Kevin, and I did this box." You've seen it, Kevin, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, all the fun that I had in the video just came back. Like, yay! I actually done something. It actually moved somebody to do something. So it's so much fun just to actually inspire people.
I love it. I did find the video, so I'm popping that in the chat for folks to watch that. Definitely do that. I mean, it's very cool to know you're making impact and have that opportunity, and we love, as an audience member, love to hear how you're able to do it. So very cool. All right, well, let's see. We have about 20 minutes left, give or take. And so I think we're kind of moving through them today. And again, let me know, both of you, if there's any particular demos you'd like to that you've like to.
I have an idea for the spinner's choice from the start.
Oh yeah, we can go back to that. Sure.
Yeah, no, it just came out to my head again because I saw the last episode with Michelle, and we should maybe note the wonderful series that she wrote about the math and trigonometry in CSS India. And a lot of people ask me like to do animations and things with 3S. Do they need to know a lot of math? And I always said no, because I don't do math. That's what I thought. I thought I don't do math, but actually I do. But I do it like just as a part of the coding. But yeah, if you want to get into animation, if you want to get into not animation, even just layout. But to really understand layout, you really need to understand the basic math of the things. Like right now, I'm doing an article about I'm writing an article about easing. So I'm actually going into the math of these things, and I didn't actually thought about it how much I'm using math in just in coding. So that's just one thing I just remembered, and I really want to hear from you, from Kevin, and even from you, Stephanie. You're actually using math. If you consider yourself a math genius, I don't know, math savant as far as coding goes.
Yeah, for myself, I don't use it too much. I think the extent of, like, rarely. I think I used it more when I had to create hacks when we didn't have grid available specifically to get percentages and yeah, I'm grateful for CSS functions that I could just sort of throw values at them and they do the rest of the work. So I've become a big fan of min and max and clamp for those reasons and fit content for grid. But so myself, not really.
Yeah, I'd say for the most part too, for me, I mean, obviously every now and then you sort of have to come up with something. I think I did more, as Steph said, before we had some of the solutions we have now, just because and even it might be a loop in SAS to output some sort of grid system or like column system or something like that could be really useful. But never anything too complex. Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and especially with what I'm doing lately, less so.
Loops are a great example. I use a lot of loops, okay,
Mhm.
in my animation. So every time I use a loop, I use math. Like there was the house of cards I built, the house of CSS cards. So it's just a loop that's running over the cards, and you position the card with math. And I haven't even thought about it until I did a live stream, and somebody told me I didn't understand your math. Like,
Mm.
it's just math. Come on. But yeah, you should if you're using SAS, if you're using loops, if you're not using function like max and min, if you want to go like the extra step, yeah, you need to understand the math of the things. So
Hmm.
it's tip for people that want to get into animation.
Good points. For sure, for the animations. Yeah, I think that's usually when I think the last time I did get tripped up and realize, oh yeah, I have to do a little math myself, was trying to do a slightly more complex keyframe animation, which is not something I typically am doing unless I'm doing it just on the side. um, cool. Any are you good on that topic or any last thoughts? Good. All right. Cool. Well, now I'm confused on who goes next. Maybe we'll just go back to Kevin again.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm motion warning. This is going to spin. I'm going to start that now.
Stop.
Ooh, long one. Ooh, on the line. Ooh, and we've done both of those topics, so respin. All right. I'm going to start the spin again now.
Stop.
All right. We're on the line. The below the line is future web. So whether that's things you're excited about, if you want to explain the upcoming things, or just generally like, where do you see the web going in the future?
I think there's two different ways of looking at it. There's a lot of exciting things that are coming. I just had Adam Argyle on my stream recently, and he's been talking a lot about the future of CSS and a lot of the things that are coming. He did a talk, and he's also, I mean, he's been going on. If you follow his Twitter feed, you're always seeing a lot of the amazing things that are on their way. And then I think like the two sides of that, and it came up at the end of our discussion, was you have all these amazing things that are coming, but there's also, it can lead to an added complexity that comes with it. And 100%, I think that I guess for me, one of the things I always loved about CSS was the simplicity of it. Again, you need to understand the fundamentals that are often, as we were saying before, people get frustrated because they don't know the fundamentals. And then going back to that really fast, I also think people get frustrated with CSS because they think it's easy because it's just property value pairs. So it looks, color blue and background red. So you think it's really easy, and then you find out that there's more to it. But I think in its essence, HTML and CSS, like there's a simplicity to it compared to some other languages. And obviously these new things that are coming, they make new things possible, like custom properties that we didn't have before. It's opened this new window, and then there's all this that's opening up the door to other things. But it definitely does add to the complexity of things as well. So I guess in a way it's a double-edged sword. But I think as long as you approach it, and I think it's with anything else, as long as you're not looking at everything and thinking you have to learn it all right now, if you're just focusing on what you need and then slowly moving along, like I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's opening up more possibilities, which is always a good thing. Some of the things I'm most excited about is probably the one I think I'm most excited about. You've been talking a lot about stuff, which is container queries. That's going to be a really big game changer in how we approach layout, which for me is always a fun thing. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see over the next few months or year or however long it takes, as we're sort of hashing out these ideas and what they're really going to become at the end. But just seeing that's even a possibility that for so long we thought wouldn't be possible, or if it was, it would be really far down the line. So now it's like, it might still be a long time, but we can see that it's happening. So I think that's crazy exciting. And I mean, that's a big one, I think. I'm trying to think. Another one that I asked Adam about it just because there hasn't been much movement on it is subgrid. So I want to start sort of a movement on subgrid to try and get people. And it's I think people don't realize why subgrid would be good, because there's not a lot of information or content or people showing what it could do. So I want to sort of get behind that a little bit more, because I think subgrid is something, once you've used it in certain situations and you realize, like as soon as I started using it and playing with it, I'm like, oh, this is what grid should have been. Because when I was using grid, you'd run into these situations where you just get frustrated with something, or you're using the same grid in two places, but it's not working the same way in both places, and it's really frustrating. And then you put it in with a subgrid and it just works beautifully. And so it solves so many of the problems that I've had with grid. That would probably be the next thing that I'd like to see some movement on. But it just, in general sense, I think the future is very bright and there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, awesome summary, and fully agree with subgrid. I just a quick thing on that. I now have to I'm now in my current job having to worry more than I had in past jobs, at least, about localization of content. And so particularly like if you think of doing like a series of cards or something, and you want things lined up, and you can kind of do that, but it doesn't work once you have change in character counts. And anyway, subgrid would resolve some of those challenges. So yeah. All right, Amit, your thoughts on future web.
Well, first of all, for me, the biggest game changer that is about to come in, I think it's the has selector.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it for years, and everybody I know is like, I need has selector. So this is the big game changer for me. I'm still waiting for it. But again, about the future and about what you said about localization. So we're seeing more and more implementation of logical properties, which is a huge, big difference for me, because everything I do has both right to left and left to right, everything. So it is a huge game changer. It's already it's already useful, but it's not 100%. Still, a lot of things that need to be implemented. But this is the future. So again, the future is bright. One more thing, or maybe even two. When you talk about the future of the web, a lot of people talk about AI, and if we're going to have a job in 5 years. So yeah, we're going to have a job in 5 years. You can stay calm. I think Kevin's agreeing with me about that. I actually been to a big company, and don't want to say their name right now, here in Israel, that does AI for web, and their demo was amazing. Like I sat in front of the computer and I said in words, build me a button, and a button appeared, and I said, make it 5 pixel wider, and it became 5 pixel wider, and it was amazing. But when it comes to layout, when it comes to responsive, it's still not there. It's way it's not there. We're still gonna have a job security in the future. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yes, and I saw the Adam Argos is, if you're not following Adam Argos, if you're one of those weird guys, don't follow Adam Argos and go, because he's always on top of the new things that's coming out. And yeah, the future of CSS is amazing, and the rhythm, the speed that things are coming out right now, insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. We are all excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll also find, I've been dropping a few different links of what you've been talking about. And I will also find one last one. I'll work on finding it. But the other things besides container queries that I'm excited about, when you talk about game changers, oh my goodness, container queries, but also layers and scope. I'm like so eager to have those. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be one of those things where it takes quite a few years for folks to significantly switch over to it, but it's going to be so powerful and so awesome to have a native CSS. So I'll find some links on those. And we got about 10 minutes left. I don't know. I'm trying to think. We've went through most of our topics. I'm like, what did we even not hit?
Responsive layout.
Oh yeah, responsive layout. Should we end on that one? I think both of you have definitely some quality things to share about responsive layout to end us.
I think, Kevin, you can go first.
I think it seems to be something that's people struggle with a lot, and for me, the easiest way to treat it is just try and be as simple as possible. If you find that you're fighting with your layout a lot, step back for a second and see what have you done that's causing the problem. Because the one thing is like I have a free course on responsive layouts that one of the first things I say is before you write a line of CSS, your page is responsive. Like, you just throw your HTML in there, you can resize it, and everything will be fine. Images might overflow, but other than that, everything is reacting. So when you do have overflow issues or you're running into problems with it, it's something that you wrote along the way that's causing it. And that can, it's hard to find sometimes, or especially if you don't have experience dealing with it, or even if you do, you can run into some tricky spots with it. But usually the simpler way is the better way. So I'm just a big fan of don't even worry about responsiveness so much. Just start with your global styling, start with generic things, do your style your typography, give your things style your content, not the layout first, just so you at least have that. And your mobile layout, you might have to make tweaks and you have to do some component stuff, but a lot of the work gets done at that point. And then slowly you can add the complexity where you need to. And again, there's always exceptions, and there's, maybe your navigation at mobile ends up being more complex. But I think that, yeah, usually if you're fighting with it a lot, it's just, maybe even delete some stuff you did and start over with a different approach. Again, for simpler websites, and I guess one issue that I have now, I guess, with doing lots of content creation is I'm creating the layouts that I'm teaching. So then you're thinking about that ahead of time when you're doing it, whereas you're not just being handed some really complex layout that you need to figure out because you weren't given a mobile design or you weren't told where the breakpoints would be. So that does add a layer. And I think that's another issue is I hear a lot of people saying, like, I don't know what breakpoints to use, or I don't know, if you're not a designer, if you're just somebody who writes CSS, and there's, for most people, there's a distinction there. You're making design decisions with when you're putting in breakpoints. And that's, if you're not a designer, that can be difficult to decide where you want to be doing it. And even there, I guess, since we're talking about that, I think a lot of people default to certain devices, and that's not always the best option either. The breakpoints should be dictated by the content as much as possible. And most of the time, you don't need too many. There shouldn't be 8 changes across a website just because, why, I guess. That's where it's adding complexity, often for very little gain and a lot of extra code. And again, it depends really on the situation that you're running into, but yeah, usually simplicity for me is key for when it comes to all of that, and reducing how many breakpoints you have and just relying on the content. And that's where it can be hard. Again, if you're not a designer, you might have trouble with that, making that distinction of when does it not look good and when should the breakpoint come in. But it takes some playing around with, but yeah, I guess that's it.
Love it. I copied in your specific course on conquering responsive layouts as well. So for folks who aren't familiar, I love that it's a 21-day challenge. So you will definitely come out of that with some new ways to approach what Kevin was just talking about.
I did that one. I wanted to make something that was very approachable. So like it's 21 days, but it's maybe 5 to 15 minutes a day. So it's not something where you're stuck having to do tons of work every day to try and keep up or anything. Especially early on, it's just like, understanding percentages for setting widths on containers, and then that's it for the day. So like, it starts very simple, and it's just over the course of it, we loop back over, add new things. So yeah, hopefully, if it is something you struggle with, hopefully it can help you out with that.
Love it. All right, Amit, back to you. And we are nearing time, so you can talk about responsive design, or you can share some other things as well.
I'm just gonna say that I'm actually agreeing with Kevin about the simplicity things. It's really it's true in responsive, but it's true in every in pretty much everything, especially in CSS. But again, especially in responsive, a lot of time when people ask me questions about how to improve the CSS, the one thing I do is delete a lot of code. The working. I'm telling people you're working too hard. You're thinking too much. Keep it simple. And it always, the simplest answer is always the better. Not always. Most of the time, it's better. So I absolutely agreeing with it. And but there is a lot of the responsive problems, especially with the junior developers. It's because this is what the designer said. This is what I have to do, and the designers doesn't actually doesn't they don't actually understand a lot of them, some of them, I don't know, don't understand the concept of responsiveness, because I work with the console, and I always play around with the width of the screen, and a lot of designers don't do it, and a lot of junior developers don't do it, so they struggle with it because they don't know what am I supposed to do right now, what am I supposed to do in this situation, how to supposed to do in this, and so maybe we need to educate some of the designers. Like I know that I worked with a lot of designers about specifically about breakpoints, specifically about fluid design, not working with breakpoint, working with fluid design, and maybe as more and more developers will work with designers, maybe more designers will understand responsive design and will bring better designs to the developers. I hope.
Yeah.
Just you made me think. There's a really good talk by Miriam Susan on YouTube called "Why is CSS So Weird?" And it goes into a lot of that idea of like it's people aren't used to thinking about when we're writing CSS, it's not about what we want. Like we're doing our intent, and then the user has ultimate control. So you sort of have to plan for what's the ideal situation, but what happens with all these other things. And yeah, if you haven't seen that video and you write a lot of CSS, I'd recommend checking it out, because it can change your mindset on how you think about it. It's a really good video.
The first thing I said to designers when I talk to designers is the fonts can change, the size of the fonts can change, the colors can change. It's not up to me, it's not up to you, it's up to the user.
Mhm.
You have to understand it. And most designers were, no, this is the design I want. No, we need to give this the space to the user. So we just need to be prepared. That's it.
Yeah.
Excellent points. That was a great topic to end on for sure. I'm glad we got to. Thanks for suggesting we end on it. So thanks everyone for joining today. This has been awesome. The chat's been so active and loving what each of you have been sharing, and we've shared quite a few links in there. So definitely, when I move this to YouTube, I will for sure capture all of those links and make those available over there. I'll pop the link to the YouTube channel in one more time as well. But Amit, any last things you would just generally like to share before we end the stream today?
Thank you first of all for having us, for me and Kevin. I've had a blast. I didn't notice that an hour went by. And just one thing to say to the viewers to tell us. I just want to let people know that I'm actually open for. I'm actually looking for speaking opportunities. So if you have a conference or a meetup, or if you have a spare hour and you want someone to talk to you about front end, so hit me up on Twitter or something.
Awesome. For sharing and joining today, especially because I know it is getting a little bit later for you over there. So really appreciate it. Kevin, anything last things for yourself?
No, I just want to say thanks so much. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's fun talking CSS. So I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I will not be resuming Roulette until August, and I think we'll switch over to accessibility as a topic. I'm hoping to have accessibility August is what I'm hoping to do, and have a few shows on that. So certainly subscribe and follow and all that jazz. And we will resume Roulette in August, and maybe some ad hoc streams in between, but we'll see. So thanks everyone again for joining, and we will... Well, I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you in a month or so.